music is a big part of my life, as I'm sure it is for a lot of you all. I mean, I like to listen to it daily. I mean, I like to play it. You know, anytime there's music, it makes, I feel like it just lightens the mood of whatever the situation. And I feel like it's also a big way to communicate, as opposed to, giving speeches or anything like that. It is actually probably my preferred way. Music can be viewed as a form of language or speech possessing subtler shades of meaning than the spoken word and yet displaying much more emotive force. And that's from Engel Poker Recordings' article about the positive effects of music in everyday life. And I'd like to go off of that and just talk about the emotions that can be brought forth from an album that's really important in my life by the band right here shown. They're called the Antlers, and they have a concept album called Hospice. And I'd like to share like the meaning behind this album and what it really means to me. Here is the set list for that album. On the left is what you'll see on the back of the vinyl or on the back of the CD case. And then over here is all the alternate titles, and it really gives you like a insight into what the story of the album is before you actually listen to it. Before this, I'll mention that the front man for the band, Peter Silberman, I mean, he's a great singer, plays the guitar, does a lot of different things, but he's most known for this album and the heavy lyrics that he writes. Initially, when the album came out in 2009, he was reluctant to divulge on explicit details about the meaning of the album and whether or not it's autobiographical or anything like that. But eventually, he came out saying that it was about a mentally abusive relationship that he had with someone. And as you can see here, I mean, the title of the album is Hospice. He relates it to a story, a metaphor that he provides and puts to music. He says here in an interview, this is from a fandom page called 4chan Music. Hospice follows the story of a hospice worker and a woman who is dying of terminal bone cancer. The album follows their relationship as it develops into a romance, but begins to spiral down because of the woman's fears, doubts, and eventually her disease. The album ends with the hospice worker that took care of her left in a depressed state, never truly having let go of her after her death. And he relates this to the relationship in that, the illness, her fears and doubts is all the problems that they have, and how it left him depressed and kind of alone. He, in many interviews, he talks about how it was such a dark place. And as the songs go, it goes through all the different problems. It even goes through talking about her childhood, and at the end it says Sylvia alive in nightmares. I'd like to talk about that now. The real girl's name, I don't know, but he talks about Sylvia all throughout the album, and it's an allusion to Sylvia Plath. He was a big fan of Sylvia Plath, and as am I now, since I've listened to this album. As you know, Sylvia Plath ended up killing herself, and she did that by putting her head in a gas oven. And he relates that in the album, especially in the song Sylvia, the third track there. And the album is Get Your Head Out of the Oven, a lyric. In an interview with Michael D. Ayers, Peter Silberman says, the album tells a story of a psychologically abusive relationship which took place in the children's cancer ward. The record sort of drifts in and out of the hospital, which is true of the relationship itself. So it kind of drifted in and out of the problems that they were having is how I took it. To an extent, it's autobiographical, but I guess the best way to say it is that there's a few ways to lose someone. It's not always through death, even if it resembles death. And on a much lighter note, the Antlers' third album was their first concept album, was originally self-produced and self-distributed. They weren't a very well-known band until they signed with French Kiss Records, and then it was remastered and distributed by them. It was immediately given Pitchfork Music's Best New Music stamp, among other good ratings, as you can see here from AllMusic, BBC Music, and so on. And among these critics, there was one person that this album had an effect on, and it was Peter Silverman's girlfriend. And he said in an interview, kind of jokingly, that she wasn't too crazy about it, obviously, because it kind of made her out to be a monster. Thank you.